Dude, we're gonna make this work. We're gonna make it work Burg and Lauren style.
Yeah, I think we are. I just hope that it doesn't fall on our head. If it does, we're keeping it in.
It's just interesting.
If it falls on my head, absolutely do not edit it out.
Alright, sit down. I want to see how this looks.
No editing. That thing, I have to like use a lint roller on it. It's picking up this dust.
Alright, let me get myself in the picture. Okay. I mean, I feel like it's as professional looking as we're going to ever make it.
Yeah. And a lot of people listen, so they won't know the difference.
Right. So,
for all the listeners, everything's fine.
Yes. Well, we are recording, so we could just start.
Well, let me get my stuff.
We've got 2 hours and, or 2 minutes and 37. You know what, I'll just stop and start. We are rolling. We've got 82% on the battery, which should be enough. Okay, so hi everyone. Nick isn't here.
I left us alone.
So, the green screen didn't work. Yeah, I thought I was a super genius and tried the regular wall, and then I tried 2 orange mats, and I actually took a picture of that, so I'm going to throw a picture of that up.
Yeah, bonuses.
That was not good. I'm not clever enough to figure out how to edit that properly. The orange would work, so I have done research, and that's true. However, I couldn't make it work. Anyway, so it's back to Burg and Lauren, Burg and Lauren, trying to figure out how to make this look clever.
Yeah.
However, by doing this, we were able to get the Yoga Rebels up there. So, and the way that we're sitting, you can't tell how it's hovering.
No.
Look at that.
With our minds.
Yeah. We're using the force to keep this upright.
And for the people that listen, everything is fine. Nothing has changed.
No. That is a good point. For those of you listening, we did put a lot of effort into this one. Only probably more than half of the people listen.
Yeah, I think we spent like, oh god, we almost spent an hour.
Yeah.
Setting this up.
Yeah, only to get back to how we kind of originally were.
Yeah.
All right. So what's our topic today?
I don't know when we were talking about it, but it came up for me twice this week. The idea of having to change something that you normally do, something that's a part of your life, like your yoga practice, to accommodate what you're experiencing now, and then feeling that sense of should, or I should be able to do fill in the blank because I used to. So we were kind of talking about, in the context of yoga, I was mentioning that my yoga practice has been mostly restorative because just a billion reasons, and I was feeling like, well, does that count? I used to be able to do this. And then I was having a conversation with a student on Wednesday, and she brought up the same thing unprompted, that because it was a restorative class, and she was mentioning, kind of lamenting, you know, I used to be able to do this, or I used to be able to do that, and restorative's pretty much where I'm at these days. And I just thought that was interesting that twice in 1 week, that kind of idea was brought up, and then I can let you explain how to not run for the whole week?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, so, you know, one of the things that that I've noticed in my training, and sort of just like in general with the stuff that I do physically, I challenge myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's a whole nother discussion. Maybe we get into that discussion because we've got some time. But, but because I like to challenge myself, here's the thing. So actually, I'm going to fill in some information. So one of the reasons why I started practicing yoga, and I started with Ashtanga, which is arguably a more physically demanding asana practice.
We both did, I think.
The reason why I did it was because I found that form of yoga and the poses and the movements helped me to keep away my migraines. So the movement itself, and even some of the, like, and probably specifically because of like shoulder stand and plow.
Primary series is all forward bending, and that's
right.
supposed to be good for headaches too.
Yes, and so I found that it kept away my migraines, and so I kept that up. And then what I also found is that by challenging my body physically, I mean, my body likes to be strong.
Me too.
You know, my body feels better when I've challenged it. Like, you know, the week that I spent in Montana, being able to challenge my legs and my breathing and everything with the mountains and the incline.
Yeah, it feels really good.
And the climbing, it really does. And so those are the kinds of things that I seek out. However, one of the things that I don't seek out enough as far as duration is rest.
Same.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So it's like, you know, frequently people are like, oh, you know, Burg, you're busy, you do a lot of stuff. I hope you save enough time for self-care. Well, here's the thing. So during the day, I do build in plenty of time. Like in my morning, I spend time drinking coffee and my breakfast, and I write in my journal. And, you know, I'm checking out Facebook and texting people that I want to text and stuff. Yeah. And same thing in the evening. So I come home and maybe I'll do some stuff, but usually like my last few hours before bed, those are my time.
Yeah, me too.
However, the problem is that that's only like a couple of hours each day, and I'm still doing like really, really challenging physical things and mental things and all that. And that's not enough. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I've had to struggle with that too, where I think everybody does this, where they have a really active lifestyle, whether it's mentally active, because we don't always think about the fact that our brain uses 25% of our calories.
So many
when
calories.
We eat, our brain just uses a fourth of that. So people will do maybe an hour of yoga a week, which is great. If that's all you can do, that's fine.
Some is better than none.
It's better than none, but I know myself, off and on, I'll think, why am I so tense, or why am I so whatever? I did a restorative practice for an hour. Okay, that was 1 hour versus 23 of whatever. I mean, even in your sleep, your brain is active. Your body sometimes is active. You might, sleep weird and make yourself tense. So I think it's really easy to get caught up in, well, I go to yoga, so like, what's my deal? Why am I still doing this? And we're not considering the super obvious fact that I know what it was, how we got on that. I was talking about how I lift weights 3 times a week, and it's an hour each time, and because it's spaced out, it's full body, so it's like big lifts. So it's like deadlifting, squats, bench press, or push-ups, or all things that use all of the muscles. And I was realizing, like, oh, I don't have the energy for like a vinyasa practice. And I was kind of like, or a hatha practice, and I was kind of like, man, I don't have my own practice anymore. And you had to point out, like, you're like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm gonna do restorative like every day. And you're like, that's yoga, dummy. And I was like I know, what we tell people. Like I know, cognitively I know, but because of maybe messaging from even just the yoga community or teacher training, it's like, keep your own practice, and just... But
we never talk about, well, what is that practice?
Exactly, that's kind of the thing. When people are like, oh, do yoga every day, I think that's such a broad statement. It could mean anything, but if you're a high-achieving, high-activity person, like one of us was probably going to initially think, oh, well, that means doing this many sun salutations, or that means doing, really strong poses, like really like finding that pose that's really hard and just like figuring out how to really perfect it, when that's probably the opposite and of that's what is needed.
Right. And, and I need to, part of my yoga practice, and this is kind of what this year has been for me, is looking at redefining what I mean by my yoga practice. One of my teachers who, Elizabeth Miller, who is my teacher for Thai massage, she has said that her yoga practice is chanting and the more spiritual side of things and whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was an interesting conversation, and so that got me thinking, well, okay, that's not something that I'm not seeking out that thing, but she's absolutely right. Like there's, yoga is such a broad thing. Like
right.
we even try to hammer it home. Like yoga is meditation, yoga is breathing,
right.
yoga is all of these things. Mm-hmm. It's mindfulness. And so my yoga practice has been noticing who I am, paying attention to my energy.
So hard.
It is. And noticing.
We're not like allowed to a lot of the time.
Well, and that's the other thing is that when you're trying to teach a class, so I'll be very honest. So I taught class this Monday morning, and although I'm supposed to be resting, I couldn't help but teach the class Monday and Friday morning. Had 2 new students, and I taught the typical class, and this is the way that I like to teach class and so forth. And at the end, I introduced her to I said, the other gentleman in class, Jeremy, he's one of our teachers. He teaches Tuesday and Thursday. Mm-hmm. So she's getting ready and getting her stuff together in the hallway, and I'm closing up in the room. And she asked him, she goes, so then is your class like this, or would it be more vigorous?
And you were like, oh no, I gotta be more vigorous.
And I'm like,
that was like when somebody told me that my class was a slow flow, and in my head I was like, it was just a regular class, and they were like, slow flow, and I was like, oh god, they called me slow.
Yes, and so I was
it was, I guess, but
I was so offended and insulted, and I'm like, and Jeremy's like, no, it's going to be pretty much just like that. Like, we teach to the energy in the room and what, people need and all that. So I felt myself fighting against that whole, like, vigorous thing. And then I was just, like, controlling myself.
That would have gotten me, too.
Yeah, but I'm like, number one, that's not the way that I teach.
Right.
And I'm not going to teach something that goes against how I feel. But my point, though, is that in trying to allow my body to rest, it is challenging because I do have to teach classes.
Uh-huh.
And there's that balance of how to simultaneously teach a yoga class that has a little bit more effort than I need to expend this week, but also at the same time being a role model.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to be a yoga teacher, part of my responsibility, I think, is I'm going to let you know. For example, this isn't me like oversharing, although I want to do that.
I know.
That's my middle name, is overshare.
I feel like that's an introvert superpower, is just like immediately oversharing.
But I'm trying to like commiserate, be like, you're not alone. Like,
you're not alone.
Us introverts aren't alone.
Yeah.
But the point though is that I'm trying to, I just want people to know, like, you can be a badass and be injured and take a rest and all of that. Like, because I get frustrated when people comment, like, on things that I post on Facebook and Instagram or whatever, and they're like, oh my god, you're kicking ass or whatever. Like, oh my god, I don't know how you do so many things. And it's like, yeah, but like, I have failings. I have things that I'm not doing right. So I want to let you know that I'm human.
And like, what would you be saying if I told you that I just took a 2-hour nap because I was exhausted? Like, would I be getting the same amount of likes? Like, I mean, I'm always like, hell yeah, that's great. But like, if you were to post I did 500 things today status, and then the I took a 2-hour nap status, you're probably going to get more likes on that. I did 500 things, you're going to get people, and they're like, well, I don't know how you do it. Like, which is projecting on their part. It's usually people are like, oh, I wish I had your energy, because they don't see any of the other behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a projection too.
And so what I found was, with all this like kicking my ass stuff, is that what typically happens is there's a week where I'm exhausted and I still try to plow through it.
And you're like, why am I so tired?
Yeah. And so I plow through it and usually get injured. And then the following week I'm like, oh, I'm injured, I should probably stop. So there's this 2 weeks where there's 1 week where everything is warning me to slow the hell down.
Oh, yes.
And I ignore it. And then the next week, I'm like down for the count. And that's happened to me probably 6 years in a row.
Yeah, I honestly, when I think back on it, when I got a stress fracture, it's the only broken bone I've ever had. I want to say I waited like almost a month to go to the doctor.
I ran on my broken foot for a month.
Yeah, I continued to run until a few people pointed out that I was limping when I walked, and I was just like, what? Mama.
You are.
Stop looking at me
It's
walk.
It's my pimp walk.
Yeah, I was like, stop watching me walk. God, why are you so obsessed with me? And then I got to the doctor, and they were like, yeah, you got a stress fracture. I was like, what? Yeah, so I was, literally had to be forced to slow down, and even that experience didn't really teach me anything for several more years after that.
No.
Like, that was like 8 years ago, I think that happened,
Sure.
and I still had plenty of things after that where I was like, that was different.
Not actually at all. No.
And back to the brain thing, the idea that our brains use up that much energy, like, I never factor that in, and I'm really trying to make that part of my meditation, mindfulness, like my yoga practice is factoring in the brain power.
It's true.
Piece, and it's so hard to do. It's so hard to think about it that way.
Well, and so I started back to school, so that's I'm learning new things, and now I have homework, and I have reading assignments, and all these things, and so, thinking about why am I exhausted this week and last week, well, it's because I've added something new for the past month. So 3 weeks of new stuff, new brain things.
Your brain is making all these new connections.
Oh my God.
I'm on the total opposite side of things, so I just graduated, but like I'm doing all of these other things to try to like fill the time that I would have been doing school things. So I'm making myself just as tired, but in my mind at the end of the day I'm like, why am I even tired? I'm not in school anymore. And then I think of all the things that I did because, well, I'm not in school anymore. So it's really, I think that can be a yoga practice in itself, is just like that catching and then correcting kind of thing, or like recalibrating, I think is a better way to put it.
And so, and thinking about, like, because I know a lot of people who are readers. They read all the time. Yeah. And, that is something to factor in. So
I never do, and I should.
Yeah, because I guess it might depend on the type of book that you're reading. If you're reading, like, something that doesn't take a whole lot of, like, thought, like trying to figure out, new things versus, like, a nice murder mystery.
Yeah, I've been reading too much nonfiction. I've been purposely trying
a nice murder mystery.
A nice murder mystery. Yeah, that's kind of how I roll too. Yeah, I had to purposely seek out fiction instead of nonfiction over the last month because I realized all I was doing was replacing school brain with more learning just for my job or just learning in general because I'm like addicted to learning maybe. I don't know, but my brain just didn't know what to do without that structure. So I realized I was just trying to like create my own school, and I was burning myself out just with like information overload because I thought that I was like supposed to be doing that.
And related to that then, if you treat your mind like you treat your body, which we should because mental health is just important as your damn physical health. That's another soapbox.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's nothing different between being bipolar and having a broken leg as far as how you talk about it. Okay.
Or like diabetes and depression. Yeah.
Yes.
You take meds for both. Take your meds.
God. Don't be ashamed of it.
Press pause and go take your meds if you didn't take your meds today.
That's right. End the stigma. Okay. Why was I ranting? Oh, I know.
It's just as important
as
the physical stuff.
So, when you are when you do, your leg days or your arm days, you take a rest because you need to let those muscles heal, right? So,
why
part
is that okay?
Right, yeah, so part
isn't.
of building strength is you're tearing your muscles. That's what you're doing when you're building muscle strength. Is your
teeny tears.
Little tiny tears in your muscles. That's what's happening. And then you need to let them rest so that they can heal in that now better, bigger muscle state. Same thing with your brain. You take in all of this information, you eat nutritious foods, you hydrate, you sleep, and then you rest to let all of that new information soak in.
Yeah, our brains do really cool stuff when we're sleeping too, but we can't get to that point if we don't sleep. Like, we have to,
Right.
like, our brains have to, like, well, okay, so dream theories and theories about when we're sleeping is that we're kind of, like, reorganizing
Yep.
our days and reprocessing them, which is super important.
At least something's organized in my life.
Yeah.
Christ almighty.
Maybe.
That's what this week has been for me. So my downtime has actually been, I went and got an adult version of a Trapper Keeper. So I have now all my class notes organized and all of my work notes in the same folder. So when I put this into my backpack, I'm bringing school and work all. I mean, I've got a little notebook for my to-do list.
I'm big on to-do
And I mark stuff off because I had everything on little like separate sheets of paper, and then I'm like, where the hell are my sheets of paper?
I know. I'm like, I've had to like break myself of the Post-it habit because everybody.
I love Post-it
In
notes,
theory, it's great until you end up with 5,000 Post-its with like 2 words on each one.
And you're like, what the hell?
Like, what was I talking about?
And they're not terribly mobile because like if you put it on the wall, then it's just on the wall at home.
Yeah.
And not with you.
Yeah, I've had to rein myself back in from that like perfectionist type A in the context of school, work, internship. So like all that structure. So it's like that saying, I don't know if it's a saying, but I say it.
It can be now.
The more you have to do, the more you get done kind of a thing. So I had all this structure, so it was like survival to have everything just perfectly organized, and then you know, the bottom kind of dropped out when school ended. I'm like, oh, I have all this free time. So it just, everything kind of spun out for a while, and I was working like 1 billion hours doing 1 billion things. So I've had to my yoga practice has been reining it back in, and then having like a notebook with lists of things that actually matter. So goals, like what are the goals, things that like actually need to be accomplished or achieved, and what am I just trying to fill space with. And there was a lot of just random space filling stuff, like reading as many nonfiction books as possible so I can learn all the things and be the smartest baby in the world. Like, like nobody cares. I already got my piece of paper. Like,
and I think that's kind of like the point. Like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, at the end of the day, who are you doing these things for? Is it for Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it for you? Is it for your husband, boyfriend, girlfriend? Like, social media?
Yeah.
You know,
that's a tough one. I think a lot of people, it's different for everybody.
Like,
sometimes,
if I was on a desert island.
Yeah, what would you be doing? Yeah,
if there was nobody there to care.
Mine's not even social media because I don't talk about like most of the shit I do on social media. I post pictures on Instagram, and I post a ton of stupid memes on Facebook. I just repost really memes about dogs. And I mean, you might never assume I ever went to any kind of school if you followed me on Facebook. I keep it real dumb.
But that's what's needed.
That's what I need. It balances my brain out. But then it makes it interesting because, like we were talking about before, is people will see like the status that you did this thing. They're like, oh my god, oh, you're always kicking ass and you're always doing all this.
It was you. It did hit you. And we said we wouldn't edit it out, so we're not going to.
Yeah, I said if it falls on me, don't edit it out.
Okay, I won't. But I do need to check the time. Keep talking. Oh, I'm just going to start and stop. It's at 21 minutes. Okay.
And out like, ah!
Okay. All right, so
edit nothing.
Yeah, we don't edit anything. Which we need to reevaluate because on Patreon we said that patrons get like extra footage.
Maybe they get the footage of the orange screen behind.
That was some terrible, terrible stuff.
And it made us black and white.
I mean, maybe we should have like a film noir version.
I would love that. And then just like us, you can't hear us, you just see us talking. And then the line, it was like, egads!
Maybe I just made this one black and white in the editing.
Yeah, you could. That's really easy to do now that we're in the future.
Right. So what else? Have we talked about that? Are we done with talking about it? Did we do it all?
I don't know. I feel like this is a really important topic. And
let's keep talking about it then.
I think collectively, I always end up talking about like your worth isn't your productivity and blah, blah, blah. But like, do I believe that? Who knows? I don't know. That's actually been part of my yoga practice, my meditation practice, is like trying to release myself from that and figure out and maybe that's homework for like everybody that's watching or listening, is if you were to take away your job, because we all identify, at least in the Western America, people ask you what you do before they ask you anything else. It's like your job defines you. If you were to take that away, who are you with that? And that's
so. What is your passion?
I have too many. That's where I'm stuck. Is like I get really excited about multiple things.
You're a Renaissance woman.
Yeah, that's definitely it. But I can't. Yeah, I'm not like. I like too many different things. Like even when going back to grad school, I was like, social work and counseling, like that's really great, but I still want to be able to use yoga and combine all these different things. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I think for me, it's going to be a way of preventing burnout. Because a lot of people, they get into this like one thing, like especially with therapy, like therapists really easy to get burnt out if you're just doing that all the time. So that's been my yoga practice, is trying to like get in there and figure out like, okay, what like who am I without all of the extra stuff? If I don't have like a grade to get or some kind of gold star to get, like then what am I doing? What am I doing things for? So
yeah,
I don't know yet. That's been my practice, and it's been a really honestly more difficult than any asana practice I could possibly do.
And that's what happened to me in 2014, probably the end of 13 into 14, because it was April of 2014 where I said, I'm going to quit my job. And what am I going to do? I'm going to start a business. What is it going to be?
That's where I'm at, yeah.
And that was where because leading up to that, I think I've shared this story, but it's extremely important to me. I was making super good money, 6 figures, and had all the money that I needed, all the money that I wanted, and the thing that crushed my world was when I had a family dinner, and I also had a little discussion with one of my cousins, and the first time any family member outside of like my mom or my grandparents said that they were proud of me was when I told them how much money I was making. And I was like, oh, like I died inside.
You're like, that's what it took.
Yeah. And so making money, that kind of money was where my family would be proud of me. And it was at that moment that I was like, I don't want this money because I want you to be proud of me for other things. And then finally over the years I was like, fuck it, you're going to be proud of me for other things, or I'm just not going to seek out your approval, which is where I landed.
Yeah, I think that's the important piece, is that we all are looking for approval outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's where we get really tripped up.
Yeah.
It's like family, friends, whomever. I would say it's more family. It's more like imprinted whatever we saw growing up, or whatever we were exposed to when we were young. Because our brains are little sponges when we're little. So even if we're not thinking about what we're going to do when we grow up, all that stuff just like sinks into our brain and it creates a template. So being validated by yourself is like...
Yep.
I'm still not 100% sure how that works, because that's also been kind of like part of all of this too, this transition of like doing something that's not already a thing. You know, like when you start a business, it doesn't exist yet. It's like a little zygote. It's like it could be anything or it could be nothing. So,
and being willing to let it change, because at first, like my idea originally I wanted to own a coffee shop, and I still will. Because that's really what I want to do. Is I want to have a place where everybody just comes and hangs out and like feels good. So that's a coffee shop and a yoga studio.
That could work.
It's gonna. We made the logo so that you can replace it with anything. But so I figured out what my passion was: help people, teach people, yoga. That's a comma. Teach people, comma, yoga. And so in that range of things, I started with the question, what is my passion?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Okay, so in my past life, I was a manager, and one of the aspects of being a manager is placing people in the right position. So I don't want to put somebody in a position doing a job that they don't like at all.
Right.
They don't even want to do it, because if they don't like it, they're not going to learn anything more. They're not going to produce anything very well. So if you can put somebody in a position and do something that they enjoy, it's going to give you a better product, a better end result. And so for myself, I'm like, if I want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem in life, I need to do something that I actually enjoy.
Right.
Something that involves my passion. And so then that's what I chose to do. And every year, really actually every 6 months, since I quit my job, started the studio, and all of that, it's changed. It's evolved because I'm still figuring out who I am, what I want to do, and what I want to do changes.
Yeah. I think that's what I meant when you asked me, like, what are your passions? I think I was thinking more along the lines of what I want to do. Because overarching, it's like help people. That's just like the bubble. So that can be yoga, that can be therapy, that can be like talking, you know, to groups about mental health and like reminding people that it's okay to take meds, you know, the little, like even little micro level things. But yeah, thinking about the fact that things can change and like just we as people, like things happen and then we're like, oh, now I really care about this very specific thing. It can't stay the same. I think that's kind of like the whole point of like this topic is like you can't expect to do the same thing year after year after year and get the same results.
That's called crazy.
Yeah, that's like the
definition of insanity.
crazy. Yeah, like I think I originally was thinking like, oh, I haven't been doing yoga even though I was doing restorative, but also I didn't have to. I chose to stop doing yin yoga because I'm like trying to actively work through hyper flexibility and like hypermobility.
Splints McGee is what we're calling her now.
Yeah, and I was just realizing like why am I doing a yoga practice? I mean, I like it because it's slow and it's methodical and it's great for people that are like really tight, but all of my joints are hypermobile. Why do I need to keep doing yin? And I realized it was like a little bit of an ego thing because it's easy. It's like,
and I can be like, look what I can do.
It's easy for me to like flop forward and to a forward bend or whatever. And I was like, but this is in the long run not actually good for me. So why am I still doing this? So I eliminated that just really recently within the last few weeks and started like taking steps to correct some of the extra stretchy joints and limbs. And it's been weird to, it's like, our brains are like, if you remove something, you have to put something where that was. Right. You can't just leave a gap in there. So I'm like, if I'm not doing 5 million sun salutations or like folding myself in half, what am I doing? So I might do an hour-long restorative practice, and it was exactly what I needed. So I need to be like, okay, that's my yoga practice.
End. Check mark.
Yeah. End of list.
and your yoga can be meditation. It can be, and then what's meditation? Well, if you're focusing on one thing and being mindful, it can be chopping a carrot. It can be cooking dinner. It can be walking.
You can do it all day, like on so many different levels.
Yes. I mean, you literally, yoga can be anything. It doesn't have to be hot yoga. It doesn't have to be something where at the end you're like, whew, boy, I just did yoga.
Yeah, I think that, westernized view of it, that like you have to get from point A to point B and there's a really clear-cut point B for the end of the practice.
You know what? I gotta be honest, my yoga practice recently has been, so if I'm going to say from like 6 to 7, I'm practicing yoga, whatever the hell that means, my goal, if we're talking about goals or whatever, is simply to leave that hour feeling better.
Yeah.
I just want to feel good, whatever that means. So if I go in like my nose is clogged up, or like my body hurts, or I'm in a really shitty mood, I need to do something to help myself, whatever that is. So if it's doing nothing, if it's just sitting on my heels, if it's laying down, I can't even tell you how many times my yoga practice has just been laying on my back.
Yeah.
That's it. Because that's all I could handle, because like life was too heavy, or my body hurt, or I was exhausted.
And just letting your bones just like release into the floor, or the mat, or whatever the thing is like just enough. Yeah.
And sometimes it's just like one pose. Maybe I just go into half moon and then I'm done.
Yeah, I've been doing a child's pose over a bolster like almost every single day.
I love that.
And then I have a weighted blanket, and I've been putting the weighted blanket over my back, and then I just breathe in child's pose with this weighted blanket. And then I've been I set a goal for myself, which just makes it sound maybe type A-ish, but it was what needed to happen. Last month I set a goal for myself that I would meditate at least 10 minutes a day, whatever that meant. So I didn't give myself a strict guidelines for what the meditation was, but I ended up doing it. So we know now, if you do something we thought it was 21 days, but I think it's more days than 21 to form a habit. But I ended up doing that to the point where now I just do it. So that's become huge. And if I don't do it,
you can tell.
I can tell. I don't feel. I feel unbalanced in my mind and in my body, and I crave it. I'm I need to go get just bring it all in. And I'm not doing anything complicated. I'm not even just sitting and breathing.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I think. That's what I would like above all when we teach yoga. When I teach yoga, that's what I want people to understand. Is that it doesn't have to be a lot. And if you leave feeling good, then that's it.
Right. Right. If you leave feeling completely depleted and wiped out and possibly injured, I don't understand. I used to understand. That used to be the kind of thing I would seek out. But I think that's also another really westernized message too of workouts and yoga and all the things in that realm, is that you have to completely wipe yourself out and wear yourself out to the point where you can't move for it to be effective. And that we know that's not even true. You shouldn't be sore after every yoga practice or after every workout. Right. If you're getting stronger and you're allowing yourself recovery time, you shouldn't be going so intensely that you're sore every single time.
Yeah, we've learned a lot. Well, and that's going to be our next thing, is when science catches up to stuff.
Yeah.
That's our next episode. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut and use that in the next episode.
Okay. Oh, we gotta talk about a rebel in a book.
Yoga Rebel of the Week!
Yeah, so I hope I'm saying it right. Everybody's probably read about her on social media or heard about her on the news. Greta Thunberg, I hope I'm saying it right. I kept wondering and trying to check because she's Swedish, but she is 16 years old. She's a climate change activist, and she's been traveling the world talking to really significant leaders, and she was in the U.S. this past week, and she went to Congress, and she really stood her ground in a way that would be incredible for anybody, but for just some not just some, but for a 16-year-old girl that doesn't even live here to say, this is important and this matters, and I have the science to tell you that global warming is real, and if you ask any stupid questions, I'm not going to give you an answer because I'm just going to refer back to the science. So I thought
Good for her.
I just thought it was really remarkable, just overall, that also a little bit of a bummer that that's what it takes, but just really remarkable to see that kind of strength and kind of resilience in somebody so young. It's sad that it kind of has taken, such significant things for that, but to be that, just bravery, I think, is the main thing.
Well, I mean, we're screwing up her future.
And yeah, exactly. That's a really good point. But the fact that she's not, I think of myself at 16. I didn't know what was going on in the world.
I didn't listen to NPR. I
didn't care about anything.
I didn't listen to the news. I didn't know who was president. No.
I cared about really sweet guitar solos because I played guitar, and I would just listen to music and try to figure out the guitar parts. That's what I cared about. And pizza.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to other countries and talking about science.
No.
She
No.
sat in front of Congress and she's like, I don't have any prepared answers. I just have a stack of science. And if you ask me a stupid question, I'm just going to refer back to the science.
Because the scientists already did it all.
That's exactly what she said. She's like, I don't want you to ask me stupid questions. I want you to look at the science and take it seriously and do something because I'm tired of talking to you about this.
Good for her. Good job, Greta.
Yeah, so she's killing it. She's making a really good example for all the grown-ups. And
all the dummy grown-ups.
Yeah, in the world.
God.
So that is why she is our Rebel of the Week. With
good job, Greta.
We've got...
All right, now it's time for the book of the week.
Also no song. I got nothing.
It was terrible.
Oh, this book is very special to me. So it was written in 2002, so it's a little bit older, but it was given to me by a yoga student of mine when I very, very first started teaching yoga. It's called The Introvert Advantage, and it's written by Marty Olson Laney. Psy D, so that's a psychologist that has a PhD.
Oh, I've never seen that before.
And this was a big deal for me at the time because I was teaching yoga, I was teaching group fitness, and I was teaching everywhere, and I was just exhausted all the time. And I had a student who came to pretty much all of my yoga classes at this particular spot, and I don't know what we were talking about, but one day she kind of pointed out, she was like, oh, that makes sense. What you're saying makes sense. You're an introvert. I am also an introvert. And I was like, I'm a what now? So she just gave me this book, and now, like, however many years later, 10 or 11 years later, I recommend it to therapy clients because I somehow end up with a ton of introverts. I think it's the copy I have on my website because, like, I talk like it. I throw out words that are very, like, introverted. But it talks about, first, the things that nobody else talks about. Like, introverts make up more of the population than extroverts. There are more of us, but we're not the ones that are talking as much, so you don't hear about it as much. So introverts tend to be the people that have the ability to stay really focused on a topic that requires a lot of inward focus. So scientists, writers, all of these, like, creative people tend to be introverts because they have to be able to be more in their mind than out of their mind.
I mean, I'm a little bit of that too, but I really enjoy being inside my own head.
I do wish that this book would get updated. I think that maybe perhaps it could be updated at this point, so definitely check it out and see if you can, because one of my most favorite things about this book is that it doesn't just talk about, like, what makes you an introvert. It talks about how the introvert brain is different and how the nervous system of an introvert is different. So we talk about the nervous system a lot, and it takes a lot less external stimuli for our sympathetic nervous system to get hijacked. So our fight, flight, or freeze. So if it's a really loud party or there's just a lot going on, an introvert is more likely to have their sympathetic nervous system hijacked before an extrovert, and then our parasympathetic nervous system is kind of depleted. So we're in this constant balance of trying to, like, recalibrate the nervous system, and it's easier to get us into the sympathetic, the fight or flight. So I definitely recommend this. It says in the little egg that's cracked, making the most of your hidden strengths. Because they're strengths. There's so many strengths that introverts have, and we're hearing more about it now, but this is a great one. Yeah.
Cool.
So this is it. So if you're an introvert, love it. Learn about your superpowers, because you've got them. You've got superpowers that extroverts don't have, which we need them to. We can't exist without each other.
No, we need extroverts.
But build yourself up.
That's right.
Don't try to be an extrovert. Be yourself.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we did it. Yeah.
It might look okay, but if you're listening, again,
it's
everything's the same, except
is.
maybe better than you were imagining.
Yeah, just imagine it amazing.
If you're listening in your car, this looks so good right now.
So cool. There's, like, unicorns.
Yeah. The green screen, oh my god.
Totally.
You wouldn't even believe it. You can't. It's inconceivable, so don't try.
All right. Until next time,
Keep the rebellion alive.
Keep the rebellion alive. Bye, everyone.